Hey and welcome back to my garage. I'm Armin and today we're gonna install another piece on the 2020 S1000 Hey, if you're new here and you have not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. That would really help my channel out and it doesn't cost you anything. So if you get anything out of this video, maybe you consider it. Thank you. Okay, today we have another box from Gilles and we want to install the AXB chain adjusters. Let me show you what is in the box and install it with you, and then talk about pros and cons and why I choose this little guy. Maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the right solution for you as well. If you have another solution in mind or something that you're using and really like, please comment below. If you have any other suggestions, any other tools that you're using that work great, I'm always happy to chat with you guys and glad to hear from you and get any sort of feedback. All right, let's have a look at what's in the box. All right, what's in the box? Ta-da! So this is Gilles AXB chain adjuster. Like the name says, it is there to adjust the chain. What they really also are axle blocks. And if we go over here to our S1000, you can see that is the stock axle block, and this is the Gilles one. So here you can see the comparison. The Gilles one in flashy red also comes in black and gold, but I like red, so that's why I choose this one. And this is the old boring gray block that is going to go. Okay, first thing, let's get some tools and get the old axle blocks out. For any S1000, the axle is held by one single nut. It is a size 34, like I have this massive beast to remove the axle nut, and that frees up the axle and we can pull out the axle. But in order to prevent the tire from going onto the ground and making the reinstallation harder, Pitbull makes this nice little wedge, which works with Pitbull stands. All you have to do is wedge the little wedge in there. It's a little bit trickier with those big old 200 tires that are used on most leader bikes. And then all you have to do is ramp it up until it's firmly under the tire. And so this keeps the tire in place. So we can now remove the axle and the tire won't fall down to the ground. So that will keep it in position and we can slide the axle in and out, no problem. So let me get my breaker bar out and then we will remove the 34 nut to get the axle and the axle blocks out. All right, once you loosen it up, you just twist it off with your fingers. So there's a spacer and an axle nut, so we will keep both of those. What gets replaced, however, is this axle block. So these you can take out. Keep them, of course, right in a place with your other parts that you have taken off the S1000, so you can use them at another stage. All right, back to the other side. Let's remove the axle. You can just pull it out. And you see the tire barely moved because it's on a tire wedge. Keep the axle in a clean spot so you don't want to get any dirt on it. Alright, now we can really do a one-to-one comparison of the pieces. You see, this is the new fancy billet aluminum machined axle nut and chain adjuster from Gilles. And this is the stock piece. You see they have the same opening to accept the axle, so it locks it in place, right, so that you only have to have a screw on one side. Really nice, simple design that they use. Let's see, weight-wise, I don't have a scale, we'll just do a quick comparison. Yeah, the new one is a little bit lighter, not by a lot, but a little bit lighter. And you can see it's a little bit longer, but it's not as long as it would like stick out of the frame or anything. It will go in around here. and then right, you can adjust it. It will probably pretty far forward, unless you want to extend the wheelbase with a longer chain for drag applications or so, but most track riders probably will have it quite far forward, and yeah, will look like this. Okay, so construction we talked about, right? Billet, aluminum. You can see the nice machining from Gilles tooling and the usual quality that they have. It's the model here, AXB. Then also the exact date when it was manufactured, 29th of September 2019. Really nice piece. The stock one does its job, right? Of course, no bling. It's a little bit heavier, and really does the job. But why would you replace them, right? So the one thing that's really different is, you see, it comes with its own screw, and of course we have here already a stock screw in the frame. So why would you use this one over the stock system? Quite simple. This screw with the little plastic spacer, it's a little bit hard to do with one hand because it's very tightly machined. It fits in like so, and this is very cool. One of the biggest problems for track riders like me is these axles. You see, it's just a normal square. When you do tire changes, these things just plop out, fall to the ground, and it's really annoying. For the proper chain tightness, you want to have this block perfectly flush against the screw here that is really the chain adjuster, the right distance that makes the chain be on its proper tightness. And so there's two things with it. A, when you change the rear tires, and as a track rider you will change the rear tires often, especially on an S1000. These things fall out, right? They get dirty, you have to clean it up, you have to put them in proper spot again, and it's just not fun. It's a little bit annoying to deal with these. That's number one. Then when you tighten the screw that holds the axle to torque spec, these things can move, right? When you apply torque, they might move out a little bit, they might move in, so that your axle might be not perfectly even on both sides, which is bad for tire wear, it's bad for chain wear, it's bad overall. So you want to have the distance on both sides of the axle as close as possible to be the same. And the typical trick is, on the chain side, you put a rack in there, and then you wedge it in there so it puts pressure onto the axle blocks, so it sucks everything into a spot. You tighten it down and it stays there, hopefully. So it's the theory. Works, but right, like that, it can slide around. These guys have the screw right here in place. So that means once you have set the screw into the frame, there's no wiggle room. It won't move back and forth. That means your axle will be much easier to change, because A, they don't fall out. You see it's secured in here, the screw, so it doesn't come out. And the second thing is, it won't change the distance. So it will make tire changes much quicker, because you don't have to measure and double check that your alignment is still correct. But once you have them in, you're good, and tire changes will be a little bit less of a hassle. You have no blocks that fall out, and also the chain adjustment won't be off if you do a quick tire change. Then of course they come in colors, right? So they come in black, gold, and red. I don't know if there's any other colors, but last time I checked, that was the options available. So you can also add a little bit of bling to your bike. Now there are also much fancier versions than this. This is a very simple version, and I like it. It's lighter than stock, right? So you take weight off the part that is held by suspension, right? The unsprung mass. So making anything in the wheel or the frame lighter really helps the handling of your bike. Now there are much fancier versions which are like this long. They fill out the entire slot here, where they have a clicker adjuster in the back. Probably the most famous one is the Lightech chain adjuster. It looks like jewelry. It's really jewelry. It's really pretty. It's very long. It has like a little clicker here where you can, on the millimeter or click, set both sides of the swing arm perfectly even, and it's really cool. But it's heavier, it's bigger, it's more things that you can damage and scratch, and I don't like to add complexity. These things are lighter, and they do the trick for me, right? They keep the axle blocks in spot, and they don't move around, they don't fall out, and they look a little bit better than the stock ones. So that's a win-win-win for me. That's why I like these. But yeah, what do you think about these? Do you like the look? Let me know in the comments below. But now let's get the stock screw out, get a new one in, and get it adjusted. So it's a 13 millimeter to loosen up this screw, the nut, and then it comes out. And for the installation, we have to take off the stock nut. Make sure we don't lose this, and put it on the new piece. Before I put it in, let me clean this area. The techs that worked on it put a little bit extra grease on. That's a bit too much for my liking. So let's clean it up. And step 2, let's use some alcohol. Don't worry, I have watered this down with distilled water to 60% rubbing alcohol. Smells so good. Smell of alcohol. Getting myself tipsy in the garage. Okay. So yeah, just like some rubbing alcohol, rub a little bit. And this is important because the set comes with this little scales that you can glue in place here, and that will help you then together with the piece to read the distance, like so, right? So the idea is, if you get these stickers aligned on both sides properly, but you can align them with these markers, then you can measure it like so. I won't install them, I'm not a big fan of that, but you just have a little sticker there. I will just go an old-fashioned route and measure it once with a tool, and then be done with it. So let's get this one in. Also really nice detail, it has this little piece, which the stock one does not, right? It's completely flush. And so this should align perfectly with this opening, which it does. All right, now time for a time lapse to speed this up. Okay, at this stage my fingers are too fat, so I will get an Allen key and get in there. All right, the biggest Allen that fits in there is a 2 millimeter. And you can adjust this, but have no fear, you only need to do this once. Right, once you have it in and you have your chain tension set properly, you won't have to touch this until you get a new chain. Okay, that should be more than close enough. So we will repeat the same process on the other side. I won't capture that for you. Same idea, get a screw out, get a nut onto the new screw, and then get it in position. So this is the other piece, where you can see it's different because where it doesn't have the opening here. But same idea with the screw, which is very nice machined as well. And you have the openings here for the tightening, which they of course had to do, right? Like usually the stock one, right, has a hexagon head, so you can use a socket on it and tighten it, or like a wrench, right? Because it's internal here, they decided right, to use like this little hole design, so you can adjust it that way. So yeah, slight little difference, but no biggie. Okay, let's put it into the other side and then show you the result. All right, and as it's placed, really simple. And now, if you don't have one of these, I can put a link in the description below. Very simple tool, where it just measures, and so you can go in there, go like this, and once you pull it out, make sure not to move, and you can see that this one is almost 1.5 centimeters wide. So with this you can make sure that the axle nuts evenly in on both sides, and then we can slide the axle through. So let's set them just to a rough first. Let's say, let's go for, I know like the previous values, so let's go for 2 centimeters on both sides, and then we'll slide in the axle. All right, both sides are set to the same distance. We'll get our good old greased axle and put it in. All you have to do is align everything, and then the axle will just slide in like so. Now we just make sure everything is okay on the other side. Looking good, and it slides through, and the axle blocks are not falling out, which is nice. Now let's see if we get it in there. Last bit, like so, and there you have it, right? So it slides in, it locks in place, and that's how it looks like. So let's look at the chain tension, and you see the chain tension is still too tight, so I will dial that in to its correct values. You can see right here, this is suggested tension has like a movement of 45 to 50 millimeters. This is not what we have right now, it's too tight. So we will adjust that to spec so that the chain is happy. So how does the chain adjustment work? You put your 2 millimeter Allen wrench in there, and you move this nut by one setting. That is a 0.2 millimeter change in distance. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? But let me put you onto the chain, like here, and now watch as I adjust it by just one of those clicks. You can see the chain lowered. Now I go back, and now I go up one more, and you can see really the chain moving. So this will help you to really precisely dial in your chain tightness, and repeat the same process on the other side to get a perfectly even axle, so that you have great chain wear, great tire wear, and you can enjoy your bike and have less hassle when you do more tire changes on the track. So yeah, just wanted to show you this. Okay, and one bonus one. If you wonder, hey Armin, how do you adjust actually your chain tightness? Get a ruler, with millimeters on it, of course. While we align here the plastic part at 0, and then you can see that down here we are at like 5 on 5 or 55 millimeters, 5 centimeters, 5 millimeters at the very bottom of the chain where it starts, and so we can see how much we can move the chain. It's almost to the top, so like 5 millimeters off. So that means we had a total of 5 centimeter or 50 millimeter movement, which is in spec. 45 to 55 is specialized spec. So at this bike, when it's just slightly floating, you will have that measured at the point with the biggest movement. So you can measure again. So you find your right setting, and then you're good. All right, one more cool detail I just noticed. To get things really precise, Gilles Tooling did something cool, right? So you use your 2 millimeter Allen, but if you want to adjust by one click, you move the bolt up or down. And if you go up, this is engineered in a way that the Allen exactly stops at a position, so that this hole is always exactly in the middle. So if you go all the way as far as you can with your 2 millimeter, you get it very precisely that this is all lined up, and each of those moves is 0.2 millimeter, so you need 5 moves for a 4 millimeter of movement. And last thing you have to do is, once you're on a perfect spec for your chain tightness, get your 13mm out, have your 2mm Allen, snug this up, and all you need to do is to get this nut snug, right? What you can do is, if you over tighten it, you will destroy the thread of that screw. You don't want to do that, so just make it tight, because once you torque it to 100 Newton meter, the axle will hold together the swing arm, and so this is not moving anywhere, right? This is not keeping the axle in place. This is just for adjustment. So just make it a little bit tight, don't over tighten it, destroy the thread, and you're good. Okay, last thing I have to do, get your 34 socket out, set your torque wrench to 100 Newton meters, and torque it down. And now already a nice thing is, we don't need to wedge a towel here anymore, because the new axle nuts are staying in place and are not moving around. Once it gets tight, you want to do smooth movements. Go progressively and slowly to the torque spec. There we go. There you have it. Torque to spec. New little Gilles mini axle nuts in place. Looks cute. Cleaned up the look. Looks a little bit smarter now. And they don't fall out. And you don't need to wedge a rag or tool every time you slide the axle in and out again. So lighter, 2 more functionalities for me. That's a win-win. I really love this. They look cool, and I'm very happy with the ease of installation as well. So yeah, if you're interested in them, pick them up at Motor Million or Gilles Tooling, and I hope this video helped you out. Bye.